Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios, the beginning of the tournament arc, Trismegistus Academy, episode 16, and it's a community redraw. So let's hop in, see who was picked, and who will be fighting. Let's go.
Today's episode is the beginning of the tournament arc in my ongoing series, the Trismegistus Academy.
Hell
students
yeah.
from the Trismegistus Academy will be going up against students from the Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighters. And some of those students they'll be going up against are community redraw submissions, because today's episode is also a community redraw. My subscribers have sent in their own Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighters students, and I'm going to take four
I'm sorry, was that a guy that was just primarily made out of fists?
them to redraw myself and work into the story
I'm loving it.
as well as showing off the other submissions that came in. Also, a little error that was pointed out to me in the last episode of this series. I was referring to Darwin's Thalassodromius that he can summon as Raptir, when that's actually the name of one of his other creatures. His Thalassodromius' name is Panther. I'll make sure to fix that in the limited release book version of this series that's going to come out eventually. But anyway, on with the show. Let's go.
Hit like. If you want, subscribe. If you feel like it, by the way, enjoy the show. Let's go!
Previously on the Trismegistus Academy. The Maverick class of the Trismegistus Academy for Heroic Enlightenment has concocted a plan to take down the treacherous Eloise
I'm sorry, was that just an undead guy using his own arm to beat someone? Oh my god, I love it.
And shut down the Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighters. Their own headmistress, Evangeline Trismegistus, is backing them up, and they're about to enact their plan at the combat tournament that has been organized between the schools, in which 7 students from each school are supposed to compete against each other in Ludum's dimension.
That's right.
LAFF students Waru Umarek and Katas, aka Tale Fanimo, have done all they can to help from inside the school, possessing 2 devices with which to try and get Ludum out of her own dimension when the combat tournament's completed,
where she'll be weakened.
Their former fellow student, Alsaya Lamani, who is now a Maverick, is eager to finally take down Ludum as well, especially now that she knows Ludum was trying to leverage her knowledge of who killed Alsaya's overseer sister against her. Dresden Oakland was the culprit when he wiped out the majority of the multiverse's overseers, and Ludum hoped...
This is a lot of submissions. I'm just surprised and impressed. Good job.
Alsaya would kill Dresden when she learned the truth. Alsaya confronted Dresden, but ultimately deemed there is nothing satisfying about killing a man who was doing all he could to make up for what he'd done. He also allowed her to keep his creature companion, Val, who is basically a Silvally SCP from Pokemon, at Tahe, as she had made a bond with the creature. Alsaya is psyching herself...
Looks like we have an Oni Panthergirl, but just by that tail, looks like it's also a white tiger. So an Oni white tiger with the ability of fire and lightning magic, along with, of course, the Oni strength and cat-like reflexes. Not bad.
Up for the tournament about to occur. Let's see what students Ludum has waiting for the Mavericks in the next chapter of the Trismegistus Academy. Should I douse the fire, or are you staying up longer, Alsaya?
Oh, right.
Alsaya barely heard Jake's question as she was lost in thought. Val's head lying in her lap as she sat on a polished stump by the dwindling fire was soothing, but it was hard not to worry about what might be coming for her the next day. Huh? Oh, yeah, she muttered. I'm gonna stay up a bit more. I'll put it out when I'm done. Jake paused a moment, then asked, "Is there anything you want to talk about? I don't have to go to bed yet. I know tomorrow could be pretty nerve-wracking for you."
Oh, most definitely.
She shook her head. "Thanks, but I'm good. I just want to make sure I'm extra tired before I go to bed so I fall asleep fast." He nodded, said goodnight, then headed off, though Alsaya didn't have much time alone before another figure walked up so silently she almost didn't notice her approach. "Alsaya, I was hoping you might still be awake. May I sit with you?" Alsaya nodded to Headmistress Trismegistus, who sat cross-legged next to her with perfect posture. "Do you have concerns about tomorrow's events? It would be very understandable if you did." Alsaya's old instinct would have been to say no and keep how she was feeling a secret, but she knew the headmistress would be able to see through a lie. Plus, Alsaya had been at Tahe long enough to trust that Evangeline just wanted to help.
Damn right she does.
I've got concerns. A lot of them, actually. But that doesn't mean I don't want to go through with this. Ludum deserves to get taken down, and I need to be there to help. Even if she might have some trap waiting for me in the tournament.
Yeah, that's probably
something. We will be watching carefully for any devious acts. But you are right. She does need to be taken down. You know, it is not something I speak of often, but I tried to defeat Eloise myself once. Alsaya turned and looked the headmistress up and down.
Okay.
For real? What happened? This was around 90 years ago. I'd known of Ludum's Death Arena
Not
tournaments for
bad.
centuries and was confused as to why nobody had stopped her, thinking surely it couldn't be that difficult a thing to achieve. In my own arrogance, I thought I could either talk her out of her actions or slay her with my own sorcery. I managed to speak with one of her scouts who arranged a
So you will unfortunately just a little cocky in yourself. Not enough to just charge head in, but thinking you would still be able to slay it all with some ease.
an audience with her.
Hmm.
I came to her dimension and quickly realized that there would be no way to make her see reason. So I attempted to take her life with my magic. As skilled as I am, against Ludum in her own realm, I was no match.
Oh
We
yeah,
fought
no
for
duh.
hours, and by the end, I was barely able to escape with my life. The
Well, you at least gave it a try, which is better than most.
last thing she said was that I should come back any time I wanted a reminder of which of us was the superior combatant. She developed somewhat of an obsession with me after that, and would often check in on me, as if to rub in my defeat. I simply bided my
Definitely.
time after that. Ludum was not the main focus of my life, but I had a strong sense that at some point in the future, an opportunity would arise when I could finally defeat her for good, or at least help others achieve that. Alcaya
now
was
it's here.
surprised.
90
Wow,
years later.
can't really picture you trying to kill someone. Not that I think it was the wrong call or anything, I just would have figured you'd keep trying to talk her out of running her arenas.
Well, you can only talk so
Evangeline
much.
sighed. That is what I'd like to do. I am certain that every soul is inherently good, despite how we may act in our physical incarnations. But that does not mean we can simply wait around and hope someone who actively seeks to harm others.
Now, hold on. You said that you believe that all souls are inherently good, but after a few evil incarnations, wouldn't the soul eventually be tainted by the evil done in their physical life to the point to where if they tried to be good, it would kind of kill them?
Decides to
A la
change their
Mr.
ways
Bonds
and
of,
act from the good in their
Simpsons?
soul. Alcaya nodded. So, you think this is the opportunity you were waiting for? Honestly, I am not sure. As much as I want to present an air of confidence, safety, and assuredness to you and the other students, I must admit every day since this ordeal began, I've considered calling it off. Ludum has been allowed to remain active for far too long and has hurt so many while showing no faint glimmer of hope that she'll ever change. It is no exaggeration to say that defeating her tomorrow could very well save thousands of lives. But I've also
Probably
had to contend
millions,
with the thought
actually.
that allowing this plan to unfold and actively encouraging it has meant that I am putting the very students I swore to teach and protect in danger. A part of me had hoped that you students would not try to come up with a plan, or that prior to this tournament unfolding, the Sharp Gang would have come up with some way to defeat Ludum, which itself is unfair of me to expect, given they are working so hard to defeat the Archon demons.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
kind of a
while I
bigger
have lived a
threat.
very long life and do believe I have acquired a large degree of wisdom, I am still simply a person, attempting to make the best decisions I can with the information available. I have prepared a very
That is
powerful
true.
spell that will transport all of us straight back to the Nexus Pyramid, no matter if we get separated, in case Ludum does try anything devious. It will drain me of
that's
strength
useful.
for a week, but at least even Eloise would not be able to stop it. Even still, I cannot
We could
plan
use
for
that.
everything a twisted mind like hers could come up with. Alcaya felt like this should have made her more nervous, but it was actually relaxing to have the headmistress just opening up like this.
It is
Well,
kind of useful.
if it makes you
talking
feel
to
any
just a
better, if you
person.
did try to call the whole thing off, we'd probably just find a way to do it behind your back, which would be even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes, I had
Reckless and
assumed
dumb.
that to be true. Evangeline turned and looked down at Val's head. She pet the creature, and Val let out a loud, rumbling purr. Alcaya, I spoke with Dresden, and he mentioned some advice he had given you regarding Eloise, to act as though you have no hatred for her, to keep her from knowing the impact her actions have had on your emotional well-being.
One reason why I think that would be actually good advice is because it would make Eloise, his Ludum, get aggressive. Like she would try to, cause a reaction and from you, which would cause her to start acting recklessly, be out of control, and less focused and attentive, meaning easier to strike from behind.
Alcaya tensed up briefly, thinking Dresden might have said something about Alcaya wanting to kill Ludum instead of getting her taken to the RAS Foundation, as was the current plan.
Dude,
Although, now knowing that Evangeline had tried to kill Ludum once herself, that didn't seem like as big of a concern. Alcaya let out a sharp exhale. Yeah, I'm sure you'd tell me that I shouldn't hate anyone, and it's a waste of energy or something, but I can't say I've let go of hating her.
Oh, damn. This guy was actually so good, he made the thumbnail. And honestly, yeah, looks like he can control some kind of nightmare dragon beast.
No way I'll let her see that, though. Evangeline nodded. It is perfectly understandable to not want her to see the pain she has caused, but I would like to present an alternative outlook. I don't believe you should expend energy trying to conceal how you feel. You should allow the anger to fuel you. Alcaya whipped her head to the side, surprised. Evangeline chuckled.
Okay.
I acknowledge that may sound like supervillain-esque advice, let the hate flow through you and whatnot, but allow me to explain.
Actually, if you let it flow through you instead of festering within, you actually do let it go. So yeah, let it flow through you, not in you.
If you are working to hide how you truly feel tomorrow, then you are still, in a way, allowing what Ludum may think to control your actions. In the long term, holding on to and acting from a place of anger, hate, and a desire for vengeance will cause harm to you, keeping your mind and body in a state of defense and tension, which can cause health problems. So long as you choose to remain at Tahe, we will teach you how to let go of your anger and hatred, so that you can act from love for those you seek to help, instead of fury at those you wish to stop. But, in the short term, if the anger and hatred are there, pretending that they aren't is more harmful than accepting that they're present and letting them fuel you to achieve your goal. Hate will never be as powerful as love, but there is still power in it that can be useful. Again, in the short term, before you've been able to release it. Those words felt weirdly empowering. Alcaya hadn't talked much about hating Ludum, as hating anyone seemed like it would be frowned upon at a place like Tahe. Being given permission to feel how she felt set Alcaya much more at ease. It was relaxing, enough so for her to realize that she'd actually grown quite tired. Thanks, Headmistress. I think that is going to help me out tomorrow.
Oh, apparently this guy's name is Oliver Demos.
So, do you hate Ludum? Evangeline smirked. Well, it took me a long time. I have reached a point in my life where I love everyone unconditionally, knowing there is a loving soul beneath even the most vile ego. But, just because I love everyone unconditionally, doesn't mean I like everyone unconditionally. While I'd hesitate to call it hate, I do strongly dislike Eloise Ludum.
And that makes sense.
Alcaya figured that was the closest the headmistress would ever get to saying Eloise Ludum sucks. Alcaya went to bed as ready as she could be to face the following day's challenge. She and the other Mavericks awoke and went straight to their meditation circle as they did most mornings, led by Professor Dispenza. They were guided through a success visualization meditation. They all spent 20 minutes feeling the joy and excitement as if they had already defeated Ludum. After her talk with Evangeline, Alcaya had an easier time than usual staying in the meditation, and feeling all the positive feelings she was actively bringing up.
Now that's
She
good.
came out of it fired up and ready to face the day head on. The class had a hearty breakfast. Dresden came and took Val to T905, where the rest of his team was waiting to face Ludum. Dresden had come by once a week or so to check on Val and to speak with Evangeline about various matters regarding the RAS Foundation. It had become less and less awkward each time he spoke to Alcaya. She certainly hadn't reached a point where she liked Dresden, but she did appreciate that each time he saw her, he did show a genuine concern for her well-being. The Sharp Gang normally didn't have the full team taking a day off from fighting the Archons to do something equally dangerous, but they'd been willing to pull out all the stops for this day to try and help the Mavericks defeat Ludum. They had reached out to some other allies and super teams to help. Many had been busy with matters in their own realms, but a group called the Draco Guard had joined them. They'd hoped a team called the Film Fatales would help out as their powers were borderline overpowered, but they'd been missing for some time, since a short while after helping the Sharp Gang kill the first Archon. Still, if they got Ludum out of her realm...
Oh, that's the video that killed the first one. Huh, okay. Well, that answered that question. Now I gotta figure out which Archon it was. Easy answer, watch the video.
The amount of heroes they had should be more than enough to take her down. An hour before heading off to the tournament, the Mavericks went over all the LAFF students they'd face that day. The roster had changed since Lidham first brought some of her students to Tahe for a visit, and to announce the competition between the schools, but Waru had been able to keep them updated. The number 1 ranked student was Waru himself, who had gotten proficient at using 2 of his 3 powers at a time, but hadn't yet been able to use strength, speed, and energy projection at once. A student named Shinobu Kohaku had climbed up the ranks over the last month, and had managed to snatch rank 2 from Katas. Kohaku was from a world where 4 clans of powerful huntsmen existed, each with different abilities of Japanese Oni beasts. Kohaku's family were tiger-like Oni. She was proficient with many weapons, but most often carried with her a large kanabo, a club-like weapon big enough that someone with average strength would be hard-pressed to even lift it.
Yeah.
Along with enhanced
Those still Oni clubs are heavy as hell.
strength and speed, she had heightened senses, could wield fire and lightning magic, and could camouflage to a point of near invisibility when standing still or moving slowly. She also had some elevated empathic abilities, being able to sense the emotional state of those around her. Essentially, if you're afraid, she'll know it and be ready to exploit that fear. She'd come to the LAFF after, like Waru's world, her realm had been destroyed by the leader of the Archon demons, El Drorok. She was at the school training to get vengeance against the demon.
Yet.
Katas's god queller
Knowing him, he'll probably of course be the final Archon to die.
teleportation, agility, and skills with her Starblade,
Ooh, Psycho Peldalek will probably be the second to last to die then.
paired with her relentless training in the Chimera capital, had kept her high up in the rankings in 3rd. 4th rank went to Oliver Deimos, a student that Jake and Anna felt they'd likely be well suited to go up against, as his powers came from a demon of fear, who resides within the boy's body. It wasn't a demon from their own realm,
cool.
but given the crystals that gave Jake and Anna their powers were made to combat Arava's demons of fear, they figured that could still give them a leg up, despite this boy's
some kind
striking
of
abilities. The demon within him is called Nightmare, and he can use the beast's power in 2 specific ways. One allows him to manipulate parts of his own body, making them bigger, stronger, faster, and more durable with the Nightmare energy.
Very cool.
The other allows him to see the greatest fears of those he faces and turn the energy that emerges from him into physical manifestations of those fears to fight
And that
for
is
him.
useful.
Thankfully, his body, when unenhanced, is as weak as an average 14-year-old, so a few solid hits on him could be very effective. But those hits would be difficult to land. Oliver himself doesn't seem overly eager to hurt his fellow students or anyone else, largely seeming rather apathetic. But Nightmare will occasionally take over control of his body, and the demon is always eager to cause pain and suffering to those around Oliver.
Well, of course,
He can also
the
manipulate
demon.
the dreams of other people while they slumber, but that was unlikely to occur during the course of the tournament.
Alright, next up should be the oh no, this is a 4-piece. Ooh, okay.
Wow, would you look at this? Lots more folks is putting up cool stuff they done colored in their reviews on Amazon for the Popcross Dragons and Popcross Demons coloring books. They looking good. Shoot, those are some right fierce looking dragons and demons, friendo.
Ooh, like
Chip and
red.
Salikali, we ain't even from the same multiverse. What is you doing here? Well, anyone can show up in the non-canonical advertising realm, Mr. Sharp.
Hey,
I just popped in to
Chip.
mention how folks should check out some of Popcross's novels like Mythal Lethal and Vigilance if they like the stories they're hearing here today and want physical copies of some of his art. Oh, please.
I
His
recommend it.
books are garbage compared to the intricate narratives I can weave. Oh, I didn't think this guy would follow me here. Who the heck is this joker? I'm Crispin Parsons. Learn the name, Sharp, because I'm gonna be
Of course. So we got Betty, Chip, and Crispin. Oh, this is perfect. This is so perfect.
taking over from you as the most beloved character in the Popcross canon any day now. What, you saying?
Crispin, you'll never be number 1. You are lucky to even try for 10th.
I'm the most popular currently? Good old Benny Sharp? I would have thought it was someone like Sam and Andy. That guy's great. Sam and Andy, huh? That sort of sounds like the English version of the name my buddy's got, Sake Anya. Well, there you go. Sam and Andy's even got a variant in your universe. Seems like he's the one you need to be going after. Joke around all you want, Sharp, but I'm coming for your title. Parsons here just showed up in the last chapter of our story, and now I ain't one to wish harm on folks. But I am kinda hoping he don't survive through to the next chapter of Starseed Saki.
Dude,
Let's
I
just
like
wrap
him.
the ad up here so we'll go away. Books are linked in the description, folks. You can't get rid of me that easily. Ranked 5th was a
gone.
generally quiet student, but one who became an absolute maniac when in combat. Her name was Khalida Jackal, and she claimed to be the daughter of a new
Little Jackal, huh? Judging by how this is actually turning out, looks like we may not see the 7th and final member of the Eloise team until the next part.
Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead from her dimension T454.
Anubis?
Oddly, though, Evangeline knew the version of Anubis from that realm. She went to speak with him to inquire why he'd allowed his daughter to attend Ludum's school, and he claimed to have no daughter by that name. Regardless, she was still a significant threat. She could transform into a werejackal,
So a bastard child?
form that granted her enhanced speed, strength, senses, and ferocity. She was also essentially undead, and no matter of damage slowed her down for long. Even if her limbs were severed, this seemed to barely hurt her, and she could simply reattach her body parts.
That's pretty useful.
Khalida could also control the chains that hung from her neck and arms, making them stretch out longer and use them to grapple or hit her opponents up to 50 feet away. Ranked 6th was Asphage, who was possibly the most vile of the lot.
Okay, so we actually will at least hear of the 7th member, but we probably won't see them.
Not that it was entirely his fault. He'd been sent out to the Little Lands 3 times for trying to eat other students. Ludum had once considered bringing him in as a monster to fight in one of her death arenas back when she ran those, but after starting the LAFF, decided he had just enough sanity to become one of her students.
Just
a dormant
enough?
alien
That's
parasite
not
had
enough.
long afflicted his family, but it had awoken in young Rudolph Vapor and rapidly evolved to merge with his physiology and make him perpetually ravenously hungry. He had fled from his family, not wanting to hurt
So he's a Wendigo.
them after he realized he craved to eat anything living. He devoured rats and vermin for some time, but eventually grew desperate enough to sate the hunger that he started attacking, well, larger prey.
Humans.
He too had elevated
Humans.
strength and speed, could stretch his limbs to roughly 3 times their length, and make tendrils that emerged from his skin that could reach up to 30 feet long. He came to Ludum's academy on the promise that she'd help him learn to control his hunger, but so far he'd made no progress on that front. The only reason he stuck around was because Ludum fed him well, even giving him some of her weaker littles to consume when he grew particularly hungry.
Oh.
The 7th ranked
Okay.
student had just jumped up onto the roster and was a bit of an enigma. Waru said this kid had just arrived at the school a week earlier, and he couldn't
Ooh.
comprehend how Ludum had already been convinced to put him on the roster as number 7. In combat, he wore an all-black suit covering his whole body and face. Waru described him initially as having real Black Noir vibes, but Alsaya didn't know what that meant. In classes, he'd stay almost entirely silent, but Waru said he'd actually had a couple lengthy conversations with this guy in private. He said it was shocking that this kid could keep himself quiet in class given what a chatterbox he was. Waru also
Not
said
bad.
they shouldn't worry
Not
about
bad.
this guy being a problem for their plans, but hadn't said much more than that. Even Waru didn't really seem to understand what this kid's powers were.
So yeah, we literally have no information on the new guy. Only that he does like to talk in private, but in class he shuts up. And for some reason, dude is dressed in all black. Like, all black.
Hadn't set Alsaya at ease to have a new mysterious figure show up. She knew Ludum could have a death trap disguised and waiting for her somewhere in this tournament. It could very well be this kid. While the Mavericks were going over this roster, an assembly with the rest of the school was being gathered. Evangeline had a small swarm of mechanical insects called shutterbugs that Gatly had invented to
shutterbugs.
fly around the tournament and film the event, streaming it back to
cameras.
screens floating above the assembly stage.
Nice.
Just prior to their departure, Evangeline gave a speech to the school, with the Mavericks and their upper year escorts up front. Alsaya had assumed that there would be some bitterness, since no other kids outside the Mavericks had been given an opportunity to compete, but the crowd seemed totally encouraging and excited about the event. Alsaya didn't really pay
Try your best and don't die.
attention to the speech. She was too amped up. She still liked the idea of Ludum not seeing how angry she was, but was ready to do what Evangeline had suggested, and just use whatever emotions came up as fuel to do what she needed to do.
That's
The
best
crowd
you can
cheered
do.
the students on as the speech concluded. Right after that, Kiko skipped over to Alsaya. "Hey, I just wanted to make sure you were okay. You know we can do this, right? Whatever Ludum tries to throw at you, we'll be there to help if you need us. Plus, you're super tough, so you probably won't need us."
Oh, well, thank
Kiko
you.
and Alsaya
That's
had
very
hung
nice.
out more after the whole Dresden incident. Even if it had been a bit of a mess, Alsaya had expressed her appreciation for Kiko helping Alsaya open up. Alsaya said, "Thanks, Kiko, and yeah, I'm ready. If any of Ludum's students knock me down, I'll, do the Maverick thing.
You'll
I'll
get back up.
Evangeline's head tilted to the side. She sensed that Ludum was
I was trying to make more of a song reference, but of course that is the tagline. Get back up again.
ready to open the portal. Because Ludum's dimension was locked and Tahe's required people to enter through the Nexus Pyramid, the headmistresses had to mutually open a portal between their worlds at the same time. Evangeline's spell she'd prepared could get her and all her students out of Ludum's realm if need be, but that was meant to be a last resort.
Yeah,
Soon, a
there's
purple
back
glimmering
door.
portal opened wide enough to stretch across the stage behind the Mavericks. On the other side were Ludum's 7 students, standing just outside the castle-like school's main entrance drawbridge. Ludum suddenly floated down on her stony control platform, which helped her use her expansive overseer abilities and manipulate various aspects of her realm. She came just to the edge of the portal, but didn't go through.
Ah, the day has finally arrived.
Yes, it
I
has.
hope all you adorable little onlookers are ready to see your fellow students get thumped by some real fighters.
Eloise looked directly at Alcaya.
Let's hope you can at least make it a good show.
Alcaya shared no expression.
I am gonna be cheering and popping all the champagne for when you finally go down, Ludum.
She was too focused on what was to come. Evangeline stepped through the portal first, and the Mavericks and upper years followed afterwards. Alcaya felt a chill as she moved from the calm, peaceful atmosphere of Tahe to the musty, dry air of Ludum's realm. They got a dozen or so feet from the still open portal. The shutterbugs flew into place to film, and Evangeline started to speak. So, as Eloise and I have discussed, the brackets for this tournament will start with... Evangeline's sentence trailed off. She paused, turning her head as if sensing something. She suddenly whipped around, waving her hands in a series of rapid symbols.
What's going on?
Students, go back! A massive gust of wind burst from Evangeline and shoved all the students back towards the portal. But just before Alcaya reached it, it glitched out of existence. The students instead just fell to the stony ground.
Oh,
As
no.
soon as they did, Alcaya heard the ground starting to crack and quake. She sat up and looked back at Evangeline.
It's a
Mechanical
trap.
tendrils with cameras and microphones on their ends had burst up out of the ground and bound around all her limbs.
Wait. Cameras? Microphones? Psychopildolect!
Along with one clamping her beak shut.
About those brackets we discussed, Evangie,
Ludum said, floating up far out of reach.
I'm so sorry to make a last-minute change, but I invited some particularly important guests, and I
Move
don't
it
think
up.
such a basic format will be entertaining enough for them. Let's try something a little more in my old-school wheelhouse, shall we?
Oh, Ludum, you cowardice! Damn it. Okay, stop the order of champagne. Stop it.
The ground beneath all the Tahe students and the LAFF kids crumbled, and Alcaya started falling into blackness. The flyers in the class instantly leapt into action to try and catch everyone, but before Zenith could reach Alcaya, more mechanical tendrils burst out of holes in the walls and bound around all the students.
Oh,
One
crap.
snatched around Alcaya's leg and ripped her away from the others. She tried kicking the tendril off her as she was dragged through the blackness, but it was no use. Soon, the tendril drew her right through another portal. Alcaya emerged to find
Oh,
herself
what
in a
the-
small clearing, surrounded by a forest of blackened trees and grass, with a bubbling purple river circling it and carving through the space.
Ooh.
It was an arena about a mile in diameter. At the edge of the forest on all sides there were 200-foot tall stone walls trapping her in. As
Oh,
Alcaya got
boy.
up, she could hear a raucous crowd cheering above her. She looked up to see that scattered in the skies above were hundreds of floating stone platforms. Many of them carried the LAFF students who weren't
Okay, so this is the guy that I described as kind of a Wendigo. What the absolute hell? Oh, dormant demon, alien parasite. Right, okay, yeah.
competing, and others carried a
Okay.
few dozen people with glowing runes, like Ludum had herself, and like
Oval
Delilah
seals.
had once had. Finally, Alcaya spotted Ludum on her own platform,
death arena.
coming through another portal to float between 3 menacing figures. One was a TV-headed man with 4 arms and a tie, sitting on a throne made of the same tendrils that had just dragged off all the students.
Psychopildolect.
Another was a pink and black insect-looking being, hovering on her wings and clapping cheerfully, staring down at the arena.
The all kind of bugs and apparently love.
The third looked like a black and yellow kaiju-like monster, and rested on the biggest
Kaiser X.
platform of all, drumming his clawed fingers eagerly at the sight below him. before Alsaya
3 of the 4 remaining Archons. Wait. Yeah, I was right. 3 of the last 4
could analyze the situation further, a portal opened in the floor next to her. Kiko was suddenly hurled out of it by one of the same tendrils before the portal closed. She was scared and confused, but still managed to flip through the air and land on her feet. She was slightly relieved when she saw Alsaya, but that relief didn't last long. A few dozen feet ahead of them, one last portal opened, and 2 LAFF students were more gently raised out and set on the ground. One was a Sphage, and the other was Shinobu Kohaku. Alsaya was already anxious about what was going on when she heard the unmistakable sound of strained laughter coming from the forest around her. Ludum's voice suddenly bellowed out across the skies.
My adoring crowd, it has been quite some time since I put on a show, but
I knew it! It's a death arena!
I have been preparing this one for months now, and I assure you it will be well worth the wait.
The crowd cheered and made Alsaya shudder. It was suddenly a bit easier for her to get why so many people hated overseers, seeing all those people bearing runes cheering about child endangerment.
Yeah.
Ludum gestured to the 3 demons around her.
I was so certain this would be my grandest show that I even invited some of the most powerful beings in the multiverse to bear witness. Please give an ample applause to the Archon demons, Psychoperdelict, Romillisect, and Kaijigrex.
There was nervous, tentative clapping. The 4-armed one, Psychoperdelict, chuckled.
Yeah, and get ready to possibly get 2 shows, folks, because if this isn't as entertaining as you promised, then we all call in our own demon armies to tear up this sorry excuse for a universe.
Oh, trust me, my shows never disappoint. You will be keeping up your end of this to never return to threaten my realm after today.
Alsaya could sense the hatred from Ludum and how she spoke to the Archon. Ludum turned back to the crowd.
Now, while we can all see the various arenas, our adorable little contestants can't yet see how many there are around them. I have prepared dozens of various environments to battle in, and there are hidden pathways to move between each if you so choose. You all came here prepared to fight each other, but today's event will force you to do much more than simply that in order to survive.
Alsaya was focused on Ludum, but kept seeing figures darting around in the trees nearby, and the laughing was getting louder. Ludum continued.
There are 2 groups of students competing here today, my wonderfully fearsome fighters, and the adorable little whelps from Tahe.
Yay!
For any of the students from these classes to escape, they will need to defeat their respective class's final boss.
A cackling roar bellowed across all the arenas. Alsaya couldn't see where it was coming from, but she knew
Ludum, what the hell do you mean final boss?
exactly what had made the noise.
Of course, first they will have to get enough points to reach their grand finale, and points are not shared, so the first student from each class to reach their final boss will surely be in for quite the survival challenge while they wait for their classmates to join them.
In the air floating between the arena and the crowd above were hologram images of all the students competing, with the number 0 below each of them. All 8 Mavericks were up there, including Kiko, but Evangeline and the upper years weren't.
Once a student reaches 27 points, they will automatically be transported to the
27? That seems a little left field. Why 27? Why not 30 or even just 25? But why 27?
arena of their final boss. There are 2 ways to get points. One is to slay the various laughing littles scattered about the arenas. They range from being worth 1 to 3 points depending on their power level. That method of getting points was largely added because I know the whiny little Tahe students will be reluctant to use the most effective way to get points. You can get 25 points in one shot, simply by killing a student from the opposing class.
Ah, crap.
Alsaya looked across the field at Asphage and Kohaku. She couldn't read Kohaku's expression because of her mask, but Asphage looked ravenous and ready to try devouring her or Kiko. This was not going to be easy. Taking out a minimum of 9 laughing littles each was hard enough, let alone achieving that while trying to not get killed by LAFF students. Alsaya hoped that the fearsome fighters might have more humanity in them than she expected from kids of Ludum's school, but it was harder to maintain that hope when Ludum raised the stakes.
For the Mavericks, the most beautiful and precious of my laughing littles, the Little Conus, will be waiting for them as their finale. My own students will be pitted against the headmistress of Tahe, who is
Wait,
currently
what?
residing in a magic dampening field, created with the generous assistance of our visiting archons. But don't think that means she will be an easy mark, students. She's a feisty little peacock. It will likely take at least a few of you working in tandem to defeat her. Oh, and one last thing. Once one class manages to slay their final boss, the opposing class loses their chance at victory, and we will simply watch as wave after
Wait, that would
wave
just
of
be-
Laughing Little are sent into the arena until you're all finished off.
Oh, so great. Either you defeat the final boss, win, and get to go home, or it literally becomes the final mission from that Halo game of survive.
Lastly, if anyone, for any reason, in any way, happens to transport in or out of this dimension while these grand games are underway, I send all the littles in at once and you all lose your lives. So if you had any little escape plan in mind, I'd recommend not taking the chance.
Alcaya
Ludum,
assumed
you
Evangeline
bitch.
would still be willing to protect her students by teleporting them all out of there if she could. The magic dampening field was likely keeping her from being able to use the spell she'd prepared. Whether they liked it or not, they had to play Ludum's game. There had to still be a way out of this.
This
Waru was
is
carrying
hell.
around the portable pocket dimension they needed to get Ludum temporarily trapped inside to get her out of her own realm. But his final boss, as an LAFF student, was Evangeline. He wasn't just going to kill her to try and get to Ludum. Plus, once Ludum was in the pocket dimension, Waru would be doing all he could to distract her from transporting out of there immediately, so they needed to act fast and transport the portable pocket dimension device out of Ludum's realm to T905.
Hey, hold on. Sorry to pause it, but and we know that this guy is inflicted with that alien parasite and all, but what the hell are these red things? Are those like gills or something? I know it's a parasite, but part of me is just not liking what are placed.
5. Anna and Gatos both had multiverse jumping wristwatches on, cloaked so they couldn't be seen during the event,
Yeah, the
so with
month
Evangeline wrapped up, one of them would need to be with Waru when he got to Ludum. There were a lot of complicated pieces to work out, but for now, Alcaya and her friends had one main priority: fight to survive in Ludum's resurrected Death Arena.
The Death Arena has returned in full force. Oh god, we gotta end this fast.
If you enjoyed this episode and you haven't seen the full Trismegistus Academy series, you might want to go back to the beginning and watch that. Or maybe just jump back to a really old Popcross community redraw just for, nostalgic purposes. I did that recently and it was kind of fun seeing how far the channel's come. I'll link one in the cards.
Oh, that's kinda
Huge
nice.
thank you to everybody who submitted for this episode, and thank you in particular to the people that were chosen. Draco Wynn, Kevin Spud,
Huh,
Funkin'
okay.
Forever, and Knight of Arcane, who I've actually
Nice.
collabed with a couple times. I'll link one of those videos in the
Oh,
card. You might want
hey.
to check out Knight of Arcane's channel.
Oh, all
Now,
right.
for the August 2025 Popcross Community Redraw, for anyone that wants to participate, I want you to submit your own version of a DreamWorks animated character turned into a demon.
Ooh,
This will be a demon
okay.
set in the universe of my demon characters, and you can have it set in the past, back before the events of Fear of the Demon Hunters, or in the modern day. But for some context of that universe, if you don't know it very well, you might want to check out something like my Fear of the Demon Hunters series.
Yeah, it's like 13,
Besides
14
that's all for
episodes.
today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of
Positive,
positive or inspiring
inspiring note.
I'm just going to go with something that was worked into this story. The idea that if you have some big goal you want to achieve, whether it's some kind of career goal or fitness goal or whatever, in the early days when you're still trying to get more discipline and pushing yourself towards working on this thing, use whatever you have in you for fuel.
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
driven by, say,
Bonnet.
trying to impress other people, in the long term, that's not a good thing to hold on to, because eventually you'll find that no matter how successful you become, you won't be able to impress everybody, and ultimately it's more important to impress yourself. But again, early on, you gotta just use whatever is in you to get you motivated and moving forward. Use whatever fuel you have, then once you've got momentum going, you can start figuring out how to be driven by something more positive. I hope
Correct.
that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday.
Oh, well, that's the end of it. I was waiting for him to do the whole goodbye or whatever. Alright, folks, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.